Hello, everybody. It's Professor Gimby once again. I'm going to take you through the instructions on how to do your individual presentation, otherwise known as your speech. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the outline assignment that you have for this presentation week, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, actually. And then we'll have a look at the rubric, which will show you how to get a perfect score of 10 points. So let's go to the top of this document here. It reads Business English Individual Presentation. I will be posting this and the rubric in the announcements link. So the topic you are going to give a speech about is a company. For example, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, etc. You can also feature a smaller company such as Raricost, or of course a large company like Hyundai Shipping. It really doesn't matter. So you choose your company. Along with the things that you're going to say, you're also going to show slides or pictures along the way. Now, when you begin your presentation, you'll start with the introduction. When you do your introduction, you're going to show an image that relates to your topic. So let's have a look first at the image. Let's say, for example, that the topic was Starbucks. Okay, so when you begin your Starbucks speech or presentation, you'll show a picture that might look something like this. Okay, now this is not an exceptional picture for your slide. You'd probably want to have only this logo in the screen or on the screen, not this garbage, all of this text stuff. So get rid of this stuff. Get rid of welcome back, Tom, all of that, and just show the logo. If you were to choose Starbucks, I recommend that you not choose Starbucks because I'm doing it now. All right, now let's go back to this. So here's part one in the instructions. I've actually given you a script that you can read. Okay, it looks something like this. So it reads like this. Good morning, everybody, if it were morning. Good afternoon, everybody, or if it were afternoon. So you can say, I hope you are all doing well today. Or you can say, I hope you are enjoying your life during these difficult times. I'd like to thank you for being here. Today, I am here to talk about, or I am here to tell you about this interesting company, Starbucks. Okay, so that's the introduction. Your introduction will sound something like that. Then you are going to show the next image on the screen. Now the image could look something like this. Here's a picture of a Chinese woman drinking a Starbucks coffee. Okay, you could show a picture like this. Or even better, because you're going to talk about when the company was founded, you could show a picture of the very first Starbucks cafe, which was, or is, I believe it's still there, located in Seattle, Washington. Okay? So, the part two of your speech. Here is where you talk about the following 5 points you are required to cover about the company. So here are the points that you're going to cover. You're going to do research. You're going to talk about when the company was founded, show a picture, show an image on your screen. Then you move to another image. Talk about where it is headquartered, where the headquarters of the company is. Point number 3, what the product or services are that it provides. Point number 4, the total profits or revenues it generated last year. And what you're also going to talk about what, in your opinion, makes it a successful company. Each time you move on to a point, you're going to show a new image. So you have your introduction image, that's one image, and then your 5 points, that's a total of 6 images now. Now here's what you could say in the part 2, or the main part. You might say something like this, and I'm going to highlight it here. Do you ever wonder who the founder of Starbucks was? I'll bet you probably believe he is very rich. His name is, okay. So this has to do with when it was founded, okay? Or you could say, first I would like to introduce you to the founder of Starbucks. His name is, okay, I'm going to change this right now, the point 1, when it was founded and who founded it. Now, when you talk about founded, that has to do with starting the company. So you're going to go step by step by step, but notice that here I ask a question. Now, this is known as a rhetorical question. This is a question that you ask to spark up or ignite the interest of the people who are listening to your presentation. You're not expecting an answer from it. Or you could simplify it by just saying, first, I would like to introduce you to the founder of Starbucks. His name is. Then when you move on to the next point, you could say, next, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to talk about where it is headquartered. Now, let's talk about or have a look at what products or services Starbucks provides. See, each time you move on to a new topic, you use what's called a signpost. We're going to watch a video about signposting a little bit later. Okay, so after you've done the middle part or main part, you do the conclusion, part 3. And you can follow the example below. So here's an example of the conclusion. So you're just about finished. Oh, it's been a pleasure sharing with you important information about Starbucks. Or it's been great sharing with you vital information about Starbucks. I am confident, or I am certain you know more about it now than you did before the beginning or prior to the start of my presentation. I recommend you visit your nearest Starbucks for an American coffee. It's the best in town, in my opinion. Do you have any questions? Okay, so you're going to ask, do you have any questions at the very end? So the people who are listening to your presentation will hopefully ask you a question. Okay, so that's sort of the instructions. Now let's have a look at the rubric. Here's the rubric. I hope you can see it. So basically, it's 10 points, as I said before. You need to remember to use 7 images, 1 for each, 1 for the introduction, 5 for the points in the middle, and 1 for the conclusion. And let's see. You need to signpost where necessary. We're going to have a look at signposting again. For example, have you ever wondered who the founder of this company was? Have you ever drunk a really good cup of coffee? next, first, next, 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 finally. Each time you're moving on to a new topic, you signpost with a question or words like first, next, finally, like that. So in your introduction, this reminds you of what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to welcome the audience, introduce yourself, state your topic, and provide an opening image. An image. In the main part, introduce each of your 5 points using signposting and an image for each point. The 5 points are on your instructions. And then conclusion. Signal the end of your talk and look at the example in the instructions. You will need one final image on the screen here. And then there's some additional stuff you need to remember. So the introduction is 3 points. The main part is 5 points. The conclusion is 2 points. And then additional requirements. You need to provide an outline of your presentation in the assignments link. So there's homework. Look in the assignments link. Dress appropriately, dress nicely when you do your presentation. Try to read as little of your introduction and conclusion as possible. Refer to notes and your cue card. So try to memorize stuff. So let me pause this for a minute. Okay, now you're going to listen to a 3-minute or so video about signposting and what that means. Signposting, there it is.
If you want to use signposting in your presentation, the first thing you need to know, of course, is what signposts are. Signposts are words, phrases, and sentences that let the audience know where you are in your presentation and what you're going to do. They make your presentation easier to understand because they guide your audience through your presentation, so to speak. They work as structuring devices to help your audience understand how your ideas are connected and how they make sense together. It's needless to say that the content of your presentation is by far the most important. Your presentation is never going to be successful if the content itself is not interesting or engaging. However, structuring your content by using signposting really helps your audience process the ideas that you're trying to express. Signposts are used to tell your audience what you're going to do before you do it. This way, they know what to expect. To move on, for instance, tells the audience that you're moving from one section of your presentation to the next. Like in, now let's move on to my next point. You could also use to digress, to tell your audience that you're going to talk about something that is slightly off topic. For instance, you could say, let me digress for a minute and talk about the reasons for this. To conclude tells the audience that you've reached the end of your presentation, and so on. There are many phrases and expressions that you can use to tell your audience what you're doing. Another way of structuring your talk is by using rhetorical questions instead. The advantage of using rhetorical questions is not only that they tell the audience that you're moving to a different section of your presentation, they also tell your audience a little bit more about the content of that particular section. To link your question to what you've just talked about, you could use so. Here are a few examples. So what can be learned from this? Or, so how do we move forward? Or, so how does this work exactly? Or, so what are the advantages of this treatment? And so on. When using signposts, keep in mind that short signposts are better than long ones, because they are easier to recognize for your audience. So instead of saying, now I'd like to move on to the next section of my presentation, it's more effective to say, okay, so let's move on. Keep it simple.
Okay, that's it for this. You can look at the video. The video will be on, about signposting, will be on the prep and review link. Okay, so Thank you for listening, and if you have
他得
any
迪士
questions,
尼。